Bitcoin has been in the uptrend since the last 4 weeks. Now, the question we want to discuss today is if the bear market is over. Are we at this stage of this year's bear market, which tells us if we will start the new bull market, bull trend? Now, to do that, what I always start with is basically breaking down the whole timeline of Bitcoin using the accumulation line and the distribution lines. The distribution lines are marked as the point, as the time in Bitcoin cycle when the price crosses the distribution line, it stays in the downtrend until it has crossed the accumulation line. After Bitcoin crosses the accumulation line, we do see a drop, and usually within a few weeks we see the bottom of the cycle. Once the bottom is in, Bitcoin starts its new cycle. This has happened basically every cycle. Well, Bitcoin is quite a young asset compared to gold and stocks and everything else. So we only have 3 cycles to compare with. The first cycle is somehow excluded because the market was still not very mature. There was no clear accumulation and distribution phase. But there is an analysis which I did about the bottom gain factor, and in that analysis I do include the bottom which happened in 2011. Now, coming back to the question, whether is the bottom in? Are we in the new bullish trend? And to jump to that conclusion, before I jump to that conclusion, I would like to look at the 2 oscillators, 2 indicators today. The first one is the Indian oscillator. And for this oscillator, I would switch to the monthly time frame. What we see here in monthly time frame is basically, okay, we don't want that. Basically, if I zoom in the cycle of 2014, we saw Bitcoin's price going in downtrend until it crossed the accumulation line. And then the new bull trend started. But what the oscillator tells us is there was always the reset of bullish component to 0 before a new bullish trend or new bull market began. Here we see oscillator dropping down to level 0. Let's look at the cycle of 2018. We saw a bear market in 2018. Price crossed the accumulation line. We see over here this point, bullish component touched 0. It went to 0. In the cycle of 2021, 2022. So 2021 was when Bitcoin topped, and the downtrend went until November 2022, basically 1 year. The bearish component started gaining momentum after June of 2022, but since it's a lagging indicator, bearish component weakens only after a few months. So the bullish component started gaining momentum in January, but before that, we see the same pattern. The bullish component dropped to 0, stayed 0, and that period was the accumulation period for Bitcoin. This would be early accumulation. This would be more or less the right time to accumulate. And after it has reset to 0, we see the indicator showing strength, the bullish component showing strength against the bearish component. And we know what happened since then. We saw the rally for almost 3 years. And over here, the price crossed the distribution line, which began the start of the bear market. Right now, the bullish component is showing quite some weakening against the bearish component. There is still some strength left. It has not really crossed under the bearish component, which usually happens somewhere in the mid of this time period between the distribution line and the accumulation line. So perhaps we see in May or June, which would be later than the mid of this time interval, but still, what tells me from previous pattern is that this rally of 2 months is just a pullback. It's just something which Bitcoin has been doing in every single cycle in midterm years. We see there is this 2 months rally over here. Over here, this was a rally. It closed, the May closed in negative, but there was quite some rally over here. There was a rally in July. It happens every single time in the midterm year. But the key thing to remember is on monthly time frame, when the bullish component drops to 0, that's when we can start thinking that Bitcoin perhaps is very close to the bottom, or it has already bottomed, and the new cycle is about to begin. There are 2 factors. One is price crossing the accumulation line and bullish component hitting to 0. There is one more indicator which you can easily add it on your trading view, and that is range oscillator. Range oscillator works on the weekly time frame, and here it is slightly complicated in the sense that you need to know what divergence is. So from divergence point of view, divergence, what tells us is if price is going up and the oscillator is going down, that's a divergence. Or if price is going down and the oscillator is going up, that's also divergence. In this case, when price is going up and the oscillator is going down, we call it bearish divergence, because after the divergence is done doing its stuff, we will see price going downwards. In the other case, when the price is going down and the indicator is going up, that's bullish divergence, because when the divergence phase is over, price starts its uptrend. So over here, the divergence happened. If let's make it the price over here from September until January, price kept going down. Let's make a nice view. The price went down. At the same time, you see the divergence went up. This was the bottom of the divergence. So let's compare it more directly with the bottom of the divergence. We can see it clearly that divergence went up. And this happened very close to the accumulation period. If I look at the cycle in 2018, divergence happens after the price has crossed the accumulation line. This was the price here at the bottom, and this is not at the bottom, but at the higher price. This was the bottom, and then the divergence is going upwards. In this cycle, this is the bottom of the divergence, which was over here. The price went down, divergence happened over here when the indicator went up. I think I mixed up saying indicator versus divergence, but the idea is the indicator should go up and the price should go down. And once this happens, there is a divergence. So far, there was no clear divergence. There is some form of, let's say, strength which was gained in the indicator in March. Here it remained pretty much flat. Because of this strength in the indicator, we can see, all right, this next few weeks, which were the weeks of March and April, there was a positive or bullish momentum. But that does not signal that we are done with the bear market. We are still far away from the accumulation date. The accumulation line is right now marked in the week of 21st September. To be exact, it's on 27th September. So it's quite likely that Bitcoin might go sideways, have a few drawdowns over here, a few drops of 20%, 25%, go sideways again, and then another drop after it has crossed the accumulation line. And once it has crossed the accumulation line, we will see divergence. We will see Indian oscillator on a monthly time frame, the bullish component resetting to zero. And when we see confluence from all of these three indicators, that's when we can say that probability of Bitcoin bear market is over. It's very high. The bottom would be in once the price has crossed the accumulation line, provided it follows the pattern. If tomorrow price shoots up by 50%, 100% for whatever random reason and stays there sideways, makes another 20% gain, then this whole model of distribution and accumulation can be thrown away because it does not work. Then a new model has to be thought of. Just like few of the other models which were predicting the top to reach at 500,000, they should be thrown away. We should not refer to them anymore because the model has failed. But until now, this model of distribution lines and accumulation line, looking at the divergence with range oscillator and Indian oscillator, so far is in play. I think that would be all for today's analysis. If you like the content, then do hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.